The alarm clock screamed at 3:47 in the morning, not because Marcus Chen had set it for that ungodly hour, but because his phone had been ringing nonstop for the past 17 minutes. "Mr. Chen, your mother's been in an accident." Those 7 words shattered what remained of Marcus's already fractured world. As he stumbled through the dark hospital corridors 3 hours later, his reflection in the polished floors told a story he'd been ignoring for far too long. The bags under his eyes had bags. His shirt was wrinkled, inside out, and possibly not even his. He couldn't remember the last time he'd eaten a real meal or had a conversation that didn't revolve around deadlines and damage control. At 32 years old, Marcus Chen was what society called successful. Senior marketing director at a Fortune 500 company. 6-figure salary. Downtown apartment with a view. But as he sat in that sterile waiting room, watching doctors rush past with purpose and precision, he realized something that would change everything. He had no routine, no structure, no anchor. He was a ship without a rudder, just drifting wherever the current of urgency took him. His mother survived. The doctors said she'd been working a double shift at the restaurant she'd run for 30 years when exhaustion finally caught up with her. "She needs rest," they said. "Real rest, structure, routine." That word again, routine. Marcus had always thought routines were for boring people, for those without ambition. He was a hustler, a grinder, someone who thrived in chaos. At least, that's what he told himself as he mainlined his 5th coffee of the day at 11 in the morning, forgot to return important calls, and rage-ate fast food at his desk while his personal life crumbled around him. But sitting there, watching his mother sleep, machines beeping softly around her, Marcus made a decision. Not the kind of decision you make on New Year's Eve after 3 glasses of champagne. The kind you make when life corners you and demands you change or break. He would build a routine, not just any routine, an unstoppable one. Marcus approached his new mission the same way he approached everything, with excessive enthusiasm and zero strategy. Day 1 started at 4:30 in the morning. He'd read somewhere that successful people wake up early, so he set his alarm for a time that felt both ambitious and slightly punishing. He would meditate for 30 minutes, journal for 20, work out for 90 minutes, prepare a nutritious breakfast, respond to emails, and still get to the office by 8. He lasted 3 days. On day 4, he slept through all 7 alarms. On day 5, he made it to the gym but spent the entire time on his phone dealing with a work crisis. By day 6, he was back to his old patterns, except now he also felt like a failure. "Of course you crashed," his friend Sarah told him over lunch that weekend. Sarah was a therapist who'd been trying to get Marcus to slow down for years. "You tried to build Rome in a day. Routines aren't about perfection. They're about repetition. Small, boring, unglamorous repetition." "But I need to change everything," Marcus protested. "My whole life is chaos." "Then start with one thing," Sarah said, stealing a fry from his plate with the ease of someone who'd been doing it for a decade. "One tiny thing that you can do every single day, no matter what. Not something impressive, something sustainable." Marcus thought about it. What was one thing he could commit to even on his worst days? The answer surprised him: making his bed. It seemed too simple, almost insulting. He was trying to transform his entire life, and his grand plan was to make his bed. But Sarah's words echoed: small, boring, unglamorous repetition. So that's where he started. For 2 weeks, Marcus did exactly one thing differently. He made his bed every single morning. Not perfectly, not according to military standards. He just pulled up the covers and arranged the pillows before leaving his bedroom. Something strange began to happen. The made bed became a small island of order in his chaotic life. When he came home after brutal days, that neat bed was there, a tiny reminder that he was capable of doing what he said he would do. Some nights, when he was too tired to do anything else, he'd at least fall into a made bed. It was the smallest of comforts, but it mattered. More importantly, that made bed started whispering to other parts of his life. Week 3, he added something new. Every morning after making his bed, he would drink a full glass of water. That was it. 2 things. Make bed, drink water. The water led to feeling slightly more alert. The alertness led to him naturally wanting to step outside for just 5 minutes before his morning shower. Those 5 minutes of fresh air led to him noticing the sunrise, which led to him starting to wake up just 10 minutes earlier to catch more of it. He wasn't trying to build a routine anymore. The routine was building itself, one microscopic decision at a time. This is what psychologists call a keystone habit, a small change that creates a cascade of other positive changes. Marcus was living it. His made bed was the first domino, and he was watching in real time as it knocked over others he didn't even know were there. By week 6, his morning looked like this. Wake up at 6:15 naturally, no alarm needed. Make bed 2 minutes. Drink water 1 minute. Step outside 5 minutes. Shower 10 minutes. Simple breakfast 15 minutes. Total time invested in his routine 33 minutes. But the return on that investment, immeasurable. He wasn't exhausted by 10 in the morning anymore. He wasn't making desperate runs to coffee shops between meetings. He wasn't eating lunch at 4 in the afternoon because he'd forgotten to eat earlier. Small changes, massive ripples. But Marcus was about to learn that building a routine and maintaining a routine are 2 very different battles. Week 8 brought the resistance. It started innocently enough. A major client presentation got moved up by 2 weeks. Suddenly, Marcus was back in crisis mode, staying at the office until midnight, skipping meals, running on adrenaline and spite. The first morning he slept through his natural wake time, he told himself it was fine. One day wouldn't matter. He'd get back on track tomorrow. Tomorrow became 3 days. 3 days became a week. Before he knew it, he was back in the chaos, and his carefully built routine felt like a distant memory. The difference this time was that Marcus noticed. The old Marcus would have just accepted the chaos as inevitable, the price of success. But new Marcus, or rather, slightly modified Marcus, felt the difference. He felt more tired, more scattered, more reactive instead of proactive. He missed his mornings. That awareness was crucial. On a Thursday night, after a particularly brutal day that left him eating Thai food alone at his desk at 9 in the evening, Marcus had a moment of clarity. He wasn't choosing between his routine and his success. He was choosing between sustainable success and burning out. He opened his phone and created a new note titled Non-Negotiables. Under it, he wrote just 3 things: make bed no matter what time I wake up, drink water first thing, 5 minutes outside before shower. These weren't ambitious. They weren't Instagram-worthy. They took less than 10 minutes total, but they were his anchors. No matter how chaotic his day got, these 3 things happened. Period. The client presentation came and went. Marcus delivered it after sleeping 4 hours, but he'd still made his bed that morning. He'd still drunk his water. He'd still stepped outside for 5 minutes and felt the morning air on his face. He didn't present perfectly, but he presented well enough. And more importantly, he didn't sacrifice the small habits that were slowly rebuilding his life. This taught Marcus one of the most important lessons about unstoppable routines. They're not about never breaking. They're about always returning. Month 3 brought something Marcus didn't expect, a shift in how he saw himself. It started with small observations. He noticed he was the guy who made his bed. Then he was the guy who woke up early. Then he was the guy who didn't skip breakfast. These weren't just things he did, they were becoming who he was. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Marcus was voting, one made bed at a time, for a version of himself he'd never quite believed could exist. Someone disciplined, someone consistent, someone who kept promises to himself. The transformation was subtle but profound. At work, he found himself being more reliable. If he could keep a promise to make his bed every single day for 3 months, he could keep his professional promises too. His follow-through improved. His reputation shifted from brilliant but chaotic to just brilliant. His relationships changed too. He started calling his mother every Sunday at 10 in the morning. Not when he remembered, not when he felt like it, every Sunday at 10. It was part of his routine now, as non-negotiable as making his bed. His mother noticed. "You sound different," she said one Sunday. Calmer. He was calmer. The constant low-grade anxiety that had been his companion for years was fading. Not gone, but quieter. By month 4, Marcus had expanded his routine, but carefully, methodically. He added things only when the previous habits felt effortless. A 10-minute evening walk, 20 minutes of reading before bed instead of scrolling through his phone, meal prep on Sunday afternoons. Each addition was small, each one sustainable. But the real test came in month 5. Marcus's company announced layoffs. His department was being restructured. The uncertainty was crushing. Everyone around him was spiraling, working 80-hour weeks to prove their value, sacrificing sleep and sanity. Marcus felt the pull to join them, to abandon his routine in favor of visible hustle. Instead, he doubled down. He made his bed. He drank his water. He stepped outside. He called his mother on Sunday. He took his evening walks, and something remarkable happened. His consistency during chaos made him stand out. While others were frantic and making mistakes from exhaustion, Marcus remained steady, clear-headed, reliable. He didn't get laid off. In fact, he got promoted. His new boss told him, "In times of crisis, we need people we can count on. You've shown up every single day with the same energy and focus. That's rare." Marcus wanted to laugh. His secret weapon wasn't working longer hours or networking harder. It was making his bed. Month 6 brought a new challenge: boredom. The routine that had once felt revolutionary now felt monotonous. Marcus caught himself thinking, "Is this all there is? The same things every day forever?" He felt restless, like he was missing out on spontaneity and adventure. This is where many people abandon their routines. They mistake boredom for a sign that they should stop, that routines are stifling their creativity and freedom. But Sarah helped Marcus reframe it. "Boredom isn't bad," she said. "It means your routine is working so well that your brain doesn't have to think about it anymore. That's when the magic happens. That's when you have mental space for actual creativity." She was right. Because his mornings were automatic, Marcus's brain was freed up. He started having ideas in the shower, insights during his walks. The structure wasn't constraining his creativity. It was creating the conditions for it to flourish. Artists know this. Writers know this. The most creative people in the world have rigid routines precisely because those routines free their minds to wander. Marcus started writing again, something he'd loved in college but abandoned in the chaos of corporate life. 20 minutes every evening, right after his walk. Nothing fancy, just thoughts and observations. Some days it was good, most days it was garbage, but that wasn't the point. The point was that he was doing it. The routine made it possible. By month 7, people started asking Marcus his secret. "How do you do it?" they'd ask. "How are you so productive and calm?" He'd tell them about making his bed, and they'd look disappointed, like they were expecting something more profound, some life-changing app or biohacking protocol. They didn't understand that the profound thing was the simple thing done repeatedly. Most people never start because they're waiting for perfect conditions. They'll begin their routine when work calms down, when they move to a new apartment, when Monday comes, when the new year starts. They don't realize that perfect conditions never arrive. You start in chaos and bring order. You start tired and find energy. You start doubtful and build belief. Marcus started helping others build their routines, not in a preachy way, but by example and gentle suggestion. When his colleague Jennifer complained about never having time for anything, he asked her, "What's one thing, just one, that you could do every day that would make you feel better?" She chose 5 minutes of stretching in the morning. A month later, she'd added a full workout routine and was training for a half marathon. This is how change actually spreads. Not through grand pronouncements or viral motivational videos, but through quiet consistency that makes others think, "If they can do it, maybe I can too." Month 8 tested Marcus in a different way. His father, who'd been absent most of his life, reached out wanting to reconnect. The emotional turbulence was intense. Old wounds reopened. Marcus found himself lying awake at night, processing decades of pain. The temptation to abandon his routine, to cocoon in his apartment and avoid the world, was overwhelming. But he didn't. He made his bed, even on mornings when he'd barely slept. He drank his water, even when his stomach was churning with anxiety. He stepped outside, even when he wanted to hide. The routine became a life raft in an emotional storm. It reminded him that not everything was chaos, that some things remained steady even when his internal world was shaking. This revealed another truth about unstoppable routines. They're not about controlling your feelings or circumstances. They're about having anchors that hold when everything else is shifting. You can't control whether your father calls, whether you get laid off, whether someone you love gets sick. But you can control whether you make your bed. And somehow, that tiny act of control ripples outward, reminding you that you're not completely powerless. By month 9, Marcus's life looked dramatically different from where he'd started, yet the changes had been so gradual that he almost hadn't noticed. He was in the best shape of his life, not from grueling workouts but from consistent 20-minute movement sessions. His apartment was cleaner because he'd added a 5-minute tidying session to his evening routine. His finances were healthier because he'd started reviewing them every Saturday morning. But more than the external changes, Marcus felt different. He trusted himself in a way he never had before. For years, he'd been someone who broke promises to himself, who set goals and abandoned them, who said this time will be different, and it never was. Now he was someone who did what he said he would do. That shift in identity, that earned self-trust, was worth more than any external achievement. Month 10 brought the ultimate test: vacation. Marcus had 2 weeks off, the first real vacation he'd taken in years. He was going to Thailand, a place he'd always dreamed of visiting. Part of him wondered if he should just let loose, abandon his routine entirely, embrace chaos. Wasn't that what vacation was for? He compromised. He kept his 3 non-negotiables: make bed, drink water, step outside. Everything else was flexible. And he discovered something surprising: having those tiny anchors made his vacation better, not worse. He felt more present, more energized. While other travelers were jet-lagged and disoriented, Marcus adapted quickly because his body recognized the routine signals. On the beaches of Koh Samui, he'd wake up naturally around 6:30, make his bed in the bungalow, drink water, and step outside to watch the sunrise over the ocean. Those 5 minutes of routine created a frame that made the rest of the day's spontaneity feel exhilarating rather than chaotic. This taught Marcus another crucial lesson: routines aren't prisons. They're springboards. The structure creates freedom. Knowing that some things are automatic frees you to be spontaneous with everything else. Month 11 was quiet. No dramatic tests or revelations. Just Marcus doing his thing day after day. And that's when he realized he'd arrived at something profound. This wasn't a project anymore. This wasn't something he was trying. This was just his life now. Making his bed wasn't an accomplishment worth celebrating. It was as natural as brushing his teeth. The routine had become invisible because it had become him. This is the final stage of building an unstoppable routine, when you stop thinking about it. When the question isn't, will I do this today? But rather, the thought never even crosses your mind because of course you'll do it. That's who you are now. By month 12, Marcus had come full circle. He visited his mother at the restaurant, which she'd returned to running but with better boundaries and her own routine now. She looked healthier, happier. "You inspired me," she told him. "If my stubborn son can change, anyone can." They laughed, but Marcus felt the weight of it. His transformation hadn't just changed him. It had rippled outward, touching the people he loved. One evening, sitting in his apartment, Marcus pulled out a journal and wrote down everything he'd learned. Not in a preachy motivational way, but as someone documenting a journey for anyone who might walk this path after him. Here's what he wrote: "An unstoppable routine isn't built in a day. It's built in 1,000 days, one tiny decision at a time. Start smaller than feels meaningful. If your goal feels exciting, it's probably too big. Find something so simple that you can't fail. Make your bed. Drink water. Walk for 5 minutes. These things feel too small to matter, but that's why they work. Don't try to change everything at once. Your brain will resist. Your life will push back. Add one habit, make it automatic, then add another. Be patient with yourself. You're rewiring decades of patterns. That takes time. Expect resistance. There will be days, maybe weeks, when you fall off track. That's not failure. That's life. The question isn't whether you'll break your routine, it's how quickly you'll return to it. An unstoppable routine is one you can restart at any moment. Focus on identity, not outcomes. Don't think, I want to lose weight so I'll work out. Think, I'm becoming the kind of person who moves their body every day. The identity shift is what makes the routine stick. Make it stupidly easy. Can't commit to an hour at the gym. Commit to putting on workout clothes. Can't write for 30 minutes. Write one sentence. The barrier to entry should be so low that you feel slightly embarrassed. That's how you know it's sustainable. Track without obsessing. Marcus had started using a simple calendar where he marked an X for each day he did his 3 non-negotiables. He didn't track everything, just enough to give himself a visual reminder of his consistency. The chain of X's became something he didn't want to break. Find your why. Marcus's why wasn't abstract. It was his mother in that hospital bed. It was the reflection he'd seen in the hospital floor. It was the growing certainty that chaos wasn't a feature of success. It was a bug. Your why doesn't have to be dramatic, but it has to be true. Build in flexibility. Life happens. Some days you'll make your bed at 6 in the morning, some days at 6 at night. The time doesn't matter. The doing matters. Don't make it a punishment. Your routine should feel like self-care, not self-flagellation. If it feels like you're punishing yourself, you're doing it wrong. Share it, but carefully. Tell people about your routine, but choose wisely. Some people will support you. Others will mock you or try to sabotage you, often unconsciously. Protect your small habits until they're strong enough to withstand scrutiny. Celebrate the boring days. The most important days aren't the ones where you feel motivated and energized. They're the days when you don't feel like it, but you do it anyway. Those are the days that build character. Remember that motivation follows action, not the other way around. Don't wait to feel motivated to start. Start, and motivation will find you. Know that you'll doubt yourself. There will be moments when you think this is all pointless, that these tiny habits don't matter. Those moments are lies. The habits matter. They always matter. Understand that routine isn't the opposite of spontaneity. It's the foundation for it. The most spontaneous, creative, adventurous people are often those with the strongest routines. Finally, remember that an unstoppable routine isn't about never stopping. It's about always returning. You'll stop, you'll break, you'll fall off. What makes it unstoppable is that you get back up, make your bed, drink your water, and step outside, again, and again, and again. Marcus closed his journal and looked around his apartment. Made bed, clean kitchen, books on the shelf, a life that reflected intention rather than accident. None of it was perfect. All of it was his. The next morning at 6:15, he woke up naturally. He made his bed, pulled the covers smooth, arranged the pillows. He drank a full glass of water. He stepped outside into the early morning air. And then he went about his day, this man who'd been broken and scattered, now steady and whole, one simple routine at a time. Because that's the secret they don't tell you about building an unstoppable routine. It's not about becoming someone else. It's not about transformation in the dramatic sense. It's about becoming the person you always could have been if you just done the small things consistently. The person who was always there, waiting under the chaos. The alarm didn't scream anymore. Marcus didn't need it. He was already awake. And somewhere across town, in a small apartment, a young woman named Rachel was struggling with her own chaos. She'd seen Marcus's transformation, heard him talk about making his bed. She thought it sounded stupid, too simple to work. But tonight, before she went asleep, she looked at her unmade bed and thought, maybe tomorrow. And maybe tomorrow she would. One person at a time, one bed at a time, the change spreading not because it was dramatic, but because it was real, because it was possible, because it was unstoppable. The end is just the beginning. Your routine is waiting for you. Start with one thing: make your bed, drink your water, step outside. The person you're becoming is already there on the other side of consistency, waiting for you to arrive. What will you do tomorrow? What's your one thing? Don't make it impressive. Make it possible. And then do it again the next day, and the next. And watch as your life transforms, not through revolution, but through the quiet power of repetition. This is how you build an unstoppable routine, not with force or willpower or motivation, but with patience, forgiveness, and the simple act of showing up for yourself, one small promise at a time, until the promises become who you are. Marcus Chen made his bed, so can you.